Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is our Rise News analyst, Emmanuel Efeni, the great Malabite. Good morning.
Good morning, Ruben. Good morning, Rufai.
What is it?
Yes, we started the review with this day Nigeria's newspaper of record. The lead story, Tinubu to Nigerians. Present hardship temporary. Benefits will be permanent. Says his administration tackling with boldness, decisiveness, manufacturers' challenges, highlights access to low-cost capital, multiple taxation, infrastructure issues, FS scarcity, export obstacles among impediments. Yes, the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu yesterday said he was aware of the current pains being faced by Nigerians and of course, advising Nigerians to just bear, because these are temporary pains that will lead to the ultimate gain. And when that gain comes, it will be permanent. Some church song, it shall be permanent. But we have to wait and see when the gains come. How long will it take for Nigerians to start enjoying these gains? These are questions that will be asked. The policy, trust, and the implementation. Does it show that the gains will be here before long? That is one question. Of course, the president was speaking yesterday at the conference of the 2023 National Engineering Conference in Abuja. He was represented by the Vice President, Senator Kashim Shettima. And of course, he mentioned that Nigeria has the potential of a $1 trillion economy. He added that he intends to focus and prioritize job creation, access to capital by small and large-scale businesses, adherence to the rule of law, and of course, the fight against hunger, poverty, and corruption. Sounds like a campaign speech anyway, but the budget, above the masthead of this day, President seeks Senate approval for $8.7 billion, 100 million euro loans approved by Buhari's government. Rights National Assembly on budget presentation. Fagbemi warns that rising debt profile, danger to economy. Well, the president will today present the budget to the National Assembly. And but before, yesterday he sent this request for the approval of another round of loans to the National Assembly. Now, if we look at the Guardian newspaper, yes, the Guardian celebrating its 40th anniversary at its anniversary lecture yesterday. The lead story there, after $3 billion crude deal, additional warns against resource-backed debts. Yes, Akinwumi Adesina, the president of the African Development Bank, yesterday gave the anniversary lecture to mark the 40th anniversary of The Guardian. Ruben, you were there and you played a key role in that celebration yesterday. As an old boy of The Guardian newspaper, of course, I was there also. Now, the point Akinwumi Adesina was making, especially as it concerns this amount, recall that Nigeria, under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is seeking to obtain $3 billion from Afri-Exim, and this will be paid by crude oil sales in the years to come. Also, recently, the government also securitized its dividend, the federal government dividend, from the NLNG over the next 3 years to also obtain loans to be put together by Standard Chartered Group and other banks. So it's warning that this kind of eating your dividend, your revenue ahead of time, and that Nigeria is warning against such borrowing. But the government of the day need all the funds. But How will this fund be utilized? We don't want to hear all the borrowings, as was the case of the Buhari administration, yet we are still having serious infrastructure deficits, which many Nigerians find it difficult to travel with ease, to the extent that even the National Assembly using bad roads as an excuse to buy luxury jeeps. Some way to think. Convoluted reasoning, one of my teachers used to call it. you won't solve the road problem. You are using it as an excuse to buy luxury jeeps. Rufai, why are you laughing? Now, let's just look at other newspapers. New Telegraph newspaper, Tinubu seeks Senate approval for fresh $8.7686 billion, $100 million loan. Now, the Punch newspaper, bank recapitalization. Federal government backs CBN. Investors rush for, yes, that's the Punch with me here. Federal government backs CBN. Investors rush for mega bank stocks. We must address banks' capital adequacy to grow economy. Tinubu's advisor. Investor injects 110 billion naira in UBA, First Bank, Zenith, Access, other stocks in 2 days. Well, investors are seeing something that perhaps we just have to take a closer look with the pending recapitalization of banks. But the CBN governor is yet to put a figure to where that should be. We hope it will be properly coordinated and segmented so that small banks don't just die because of recapitalization, as was the case in the Soludo era, where it was the capitalization moved from 2 billion to 25 billion, and many banks had to either merge, close shop, and of course, with all the attendant consequences for job loss, as one of our guests put it yesterday, culture shock and all that. Now, the Nigerian Tribune newspaper, Ayedatiwa, Ondo Speaker reveals details of deal brokered by Tinubu, highlights how Deputy Governor will sign undated resignation letter to be submitted to the President. Says he remains Ondo Deputy Governor, impeachment proceedings halted. Take actions for stall further crisis over Akeredolu's absence, Ondo Indigenes, right Chief Justice. Well, the highlight, of course, the details of the resolution brokered by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in the Ondo political crisis there. Now, for a deputy governor to sign undated letter of resignation, well, using these are non-constitutional means to solve a political problem. But there is a constitutional procedure for what is happening in Ondo State. If the governor is not available, if he's incapacitated, the constitution is very clear. So having a deputy governor to sign an undated letter of resignation, according to this report in the Nigerian Tribune, looks like extra constitutional solution that the president has proffered. Well, but Ondo State people are worried that governance is suffering in Ondo State because of the absence of the governor, who is incapacitated, as some have said, and is in Ibadan, Oyo State, recuperating. Well, and the deputy governor is not in charge. So who is in charge in Ondo State? Some of the people who are in charge are said to be those who are political gladiators around the governor. Now, the Blueprint newspaper is reporting, the Blueprint newspaper, Kanu Goba poll, judiciary will redeem own image, sanction erring officials, petitions flood Chief Justice of Nigeria's office, group uncovers plot to cause unrest in Kano metropolis. Also reporting on the Kanu Goba polls, the Leadership newspaper, judge faces Judicial Council's wrath over clerical error. Sanction in line with our self-cleansing process. Fubara, Aliyu, Kefas affirmed as Rivers, Sokoto, Taraba governors respectively. Nasarawa speaker sacked. The Independent newspaper reporting from, of course, the town hall yesterday. We must proscribe cross-carpeting on bundle INEC. Atahiru Jega, former Professor Atahiru Jega, former INEC chair, making that prescription. Of course, he has a whole paper on that, and he has made some novel, well, not necessarily novel, but far-reaching suggestion, which if we put in place will help the electoral process. One foreign newspapers quickly, the Times of London, call to close visa route for cheaper foreign staff, dancers, graphic designers on shortage list. Of course, Rishi Sunak is under pressure to scrap an immigration route that allows foreigners to be hired to plug workforce shortage. Of course, he is resisting it also because he wants to reduce the waiting time in NHS by bringing in more workers. But this advisory that has come from the Migration Advisory Committee is being resisted by number 10. Ruben and Rufai.
I'm more interested in another story above that on the front page of
the Times,
which is the diplomatic row that occurred last night between Greece and Britain. What happened was that the Greek Prime Minister, Mitsotakis, was visiting Britain for 3 days, and he was supposed to meet with the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak. But the row was over the Elgin marbles. The Elgin marbles taken during the Ottoman Greece by Thomas Bruce, the 7th Earl of Elgin, from the Parthenon, the Parthenon marbles, they're called, from the Acropolis. And Greece has always been saying that these artifacts, these sculptures rather, were taken away illegally and unethically. But Britain is saying no, that, the Ottomans allowed Thomas Bruce to take the sculptures away, and that, they are better off being in the British Museum. So the British are claiming that there was a prior agreement that the Greek Prime Minister should not talk about the Elgin marbles, the Parthenon marbles, during the 3-day visit. But he went and granted an interview to BBC. And it was alleged that in the course of the interview, he made the point that, look, taking a Parthenon friezes, part of the complete set of sculptures, and keeping them in the British Museum, is like cutting the Mona Lisa in half. On the basis of this, it was alleged that the Prime Minister cancelled the meeting with the Greek Prime Minister. And the Greek Prime Minister was asked to go and meet with the Deputy Prime Minister of Britain, which he refused, of course, naturally. This is how, cultural diplomacy can be a major issue, and the British, they seem to have this special attitude of wanting to hold on to stolen things. Stolen artifacts.
Stolen things. Too much.
Stolen artifacts.
Stolen artifacts. They like too much stolen goods.
So,
the British.
Nigeria, we're also interested in the story.
Yes.
Because Nigeria has been
The
trying to
bronzes.
get all our artifacts
They should bring them back.
from all the European countries.
They
are better off with the owners of the artifacts.
Yes.
Anyway, I thought that story. I would have loved to give a full summary of what Akinwumi Adesina said yesterday. Because you just touched on one aspect. And the presentation was for the world to respect Africa. And his lecture was detailed what Africa must do if it wants to gain respect of the rest of the world, and how Nigeria can be the Lion King in this regard, given our resources. Well, thank you very much, Emmanuel.